Good morning, everyone. Thomas Fleming here again. Okay, I'm going to change topic a little bit, but nothing varies very far from biblical truth no matter what I talk about. I keep telling everybody, and people are worried, of course, they need to be about loved ones being left behind. So I keep saying, well, be sure to plant seeds. The sun is bright. I may have to move. Okay, I'll try to get by. To be planting seeds, to be talking about the gospel more than anything, but you can kind of threaten people a little bit politely and nicely with revelation of what's coming, so they know that it's not just an easy thing. They can ignore God for a while, but eventually they won't be able to. We don't hit them over the head with the Bible, but you got to make sure you present them the truth. But do it lovingly, especially with family. If you alienate them, some family members are already alienated. They alienate themselves because they want to be able to strike out on their own and they don't want anybody's help. It's that prideful thing. It's normal for a teenager to want to do that, but some people never grow up. Okay, so why do you plant seeds? What good does it do? Have you not noticed the world? The world is planting seeds in your mind every day. If you watch TV, you watch commercials, they're planting seeds. If you listen to music, secular music, but even Christian music, they're planting seeds. Good, a cloud. It works. People pay money to plant seeds. It's called advertising. If you'd rather use a modern term, then call it advertising. You're advertising for God. And you don't have to make sure that you get everybody accepted. In fact, you're not supposed to make sure anybody's accepting Christ anyway. It's the Spirit's job. But your job is just to get the message out. When you put a commercial on a TV show, your job is just to get the audience to watch. Now, you can do it in a storyline, you can do it in a comparative. There's different ways of doing it. How many people watch the Super Bowl and don't want to leave for the halftime show because of the commercials? A lot of them were commercials for alcohol. I remember when Budweiser was up there big time, you wanted to see what their humorous commercial would be. Whether it's the frogs, Budweiser, or when they just showed the Clydesdales. I've seen the Clydesdales up close and personal, and my dad was a personal friend of a high executive at Budweiser, and I'll just leave it at that. There's nothing wrong with good advertising to celebrate or to advertise a good product. But there are hidden products, hidden things out there that you got to pay attention to. I like to listen to music to control the tone of how I feel. When I was working in the morning, if I was waiting for my coffee to kick in, I might turn on some hard rock. In the evening, I maybe listen to some jazz. Plain jazz is just music. There's no words, and that's not too bad. But some of the words are a problem. You've got to really pay attention. One of the songs I used to like, and I still like the singer, a great voice, Sade, in one of her songs, you don't realize a smooth operator. What kind of a smooth operator? Coast to coast and into Chicago. Love for sale. Yeah. Pay attention to the words, because you're programming your brain when you listen to these songs, especially if you like the song. a lot of times we interpret the songs differently from the way the artist originally interpreted it, so that's also a problem. You know, look at Fleetwood Mac. They stayed together for the money while they were filing for divorce. Listen to the songs. Go Your Own Way. This is a married couple. How about Christy McVie's You Make Lovin' Fun? And she was having an affair, and her husband didn't know that until somebody explained to him what the song meant, and then they got divorced. A top band. We look at the Rolling Stones. He sings about being the devil. Yeah. This is the music that's out there that our young people lived through when I was growing up. And today, this, I'm sure, is still the same. I just don't listen to it. Christian music is out there, but it's not. You won't find very many stations. In a large metropolitan area, there might be one. I think in the Atlanta area, it's Fish. There might be another one, but they don't. You know, they don't get the advertising bucks that the rock stations do because they don't have the listeners. There's not as many Christians as there are worldly people out there. So you have to be careful what you put in. You know, the old expression, you are what you eat. Well, I'm a ho-ho right now because that's what I just ate. You've got to combine, you know, if you're going to get into something that's not good for you, one, you shouldn't. But if you are, then you got to offset it. If you have to go to places where they do this, if you work in a club, in a bar, whatever, I'd say find another profession, but, you know, if this is your career, you're going to have to learn to live with it, learn to be able to adapt and counter it. I've talked about this being out in California, and it was the start of a revival out there in the early 70s, early to mid 70s. Organizations like Maranatha Music got started. We learned about, you know, who Pat Boone was, that he was a Christian. I remember watching one of his movies, Crossing His Switchblade. A very telling story about someone willing to risk their lives to get the message out. We have people today that have become Christians after they've been acting for a while. Kevin Sorbo would be one. Played Hercules. It almost killed him, and that's what brought him to God. So now he's done a remake of, what's the name of the film? Left Behind. It's either just out or just coming out, so, you know, I would check it out. He's also narrated a couple of things like Before the Wrath and things like that, so he's heavily involved now. But he almost died to get there. God will do whatever it takes to get our attention. We got to get our mind off of everything. It is strange that I would consider the worst state politically, California. It's not as, you know, you talk about New York. Well, New York City is different than New York. California as a whole has the worst government of anybody here. It's a cesspool for liberal things. They test everything out there. If it flies, they ship it out. They impeach the governor, and through a rigged election, he gets right back in. Is that a bug or a leaf? I couldn't tell. Didn't matter. It went away. So the world out there is not going to be for us. You've got to keep your mind off of the world. We're going to look at it in a little bit, but it says not to be conformed. Don't let the world change you. You have to watch what you watch on TV. if you watch TV. The good old wholesome family shows are not on anymore. Leave It to Beaver and the other shows that we would watch back then. They don't exist. Now they're hodgepodge, Roseanne, hodgepodge families with people having affairs. And now I used to watch the Big Bang, but then they started, they were into everybody having affairs. How many people did Penny sleep with? That's the kind of TV that's on now. Going back to Fleetwood Mac, one of the songs, Rhiannon made a lot of money. I don't know if you've heard her talk about it, but in the early days when she would get up and talk about it, she would say, "This is a story about a Welsh witch." Yes, she's singing about a witch. And she's still into that stuff. I saw a video of her one time where they were talking in her house and she had candles and witchcraft stuff up, things like that. Into the occult. People are into the occult. That's the world. They're getting openly into the occult. Boston's having a big get-together. I've talked about that. So you've got to isolate yourself as much as possible. And to counter that, you've got to keep in the Word as much as possible. If you don't do both, stay away from the bad stuff and get into the good stuff. My sinuses are just, I don't know what it was. It was so nice to be down in that salt air. It felt good, and now I'm back in the trees again, in the forests and everything. And I was okay down there, so I missed being by the ocean. I lived on the coast for years in California, and even when I didn't live on the coast, I didn't live far from it. I could go to the beach at work when I lived in Manhattan Beach, and even when I commuted there for a little bit. We'd take off at lunch and go down and play beach volleyball. We'd come back to the building and take a shower because our building had showers in it, and then go back to work. So I miss living near the beach. I wish I could be back by it again. I've been seeing images of the beaches in Israel. There's a lot of beaches there, a lot of coast. It's pretty much right along the coast. And you go inland, you go to the river. Now you're supposed to be able to go beyond it. They never did take back all the land that God gave them. Go to Genesis, 12? Where it talks about if you bless Israel, I'll bless you, and if you go against Israel, I'll be against you. Those countries that are over there that have owned that land for all this time and didn't give it back, you're going to pay a price. All right. So, be careful what you put in, because it works on you as well as it works on the people that you're talking to. If you're planting seeds, the world's planting seeds too. The world's planting satanic seeds all around. All these things that are, quote, fun to do. We made it through the 60s barely, and 70s. The drug culture. I forget the phrase exactly. I may have it right. Tune in, turn on, and turn off. In other words, go get high and just ignore what's going on. Don't contribute it to society. Don't improve yourself. Just get high. Ignore the world. Because the world's no good. It's full of bad people. Well, that's right. Because the devil's here. And he has bad people everywhere. But there's good people too. And you let them away. And you turn off the whole world. Be selective of who you friend. Be selective of the music you listen to. Even country music, which typically tends to be, there's lyrics to a song that says this is another somebody done somebody wrong song. Country music I can listen to, but it's all Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, country's got it too because they cross genres. All right, let's take a look at some scriptures here. Let me turn to Romans 12, verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Adultery is not reasonable. Present your bodies a reasonable sacrifice. And if you think it in your mind, it's the same as if you've done it. So do your best to stay away from thoughts coming into your mind that talk about adultery or talk about sex and things like that. You're programming your mind. And then your dreams will pick up on it. And then your real life may pick up on it. If God can't reach you, Satan will. If Satan knows that you're having a weakness with sex, for instance, he may find somebody very attractive to bring into your life who might be in one of these weird religions and mess up yours. If it's too good, it's probably true in that frame of mind. Continuing on in verse 2, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing. It's like rebooting. It's like hitting the Control-Alt-Delete keys. Every morning, renew yourself. Start off with a prayer for forgiveness. Talk to God. Read some scripture. Be quiet with Him. Start your day that way. Help to renew your mind. If you've got free time during the day, there's no reason you can't have a Bible with you, because you can get free Bible books to put on your phone. That way when people are going, don't you ever put that phone down? No, I'm reading the Bible. That'll put them off. Okay, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. The only way you're going to achieve that is to be programming your mind with God, with the way He behaves, the way He has His disciples behave, the way Jesus behaves. It's all written down. So you read about it, you program your mind about it. Okay. Now I'm going to turn back to the Old Testament because God is consistent. Whatever He did in the Old Testament still applies. Watching the squirrels around here. Okay, so I'm in Joshua 1:8. Okay, so we got after the death of Moses in 1, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise and go into Jordan. Okay, so that's the setting that we're in. That's in verse 1 where I read that. Now in verse 8, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That's from Joshua. Joshua follows Deuteronomy. It's right after those 5 books, the law. He's taking over for Moses. So he's got the same abilities. He parted the river too, just as Moses did. Now I'm going to turn to Psalms, because I've talked about singing and songs. The Bible is not against singing and songs. It's against the meaning. It's against what they convey. They're tying emotion to bad words. That helps to strengthen it. A strong emotion tied to words, and you have a corrupted mind if it's not good, or you have a good mind if it's from the Bible. Okay, so Psalms, I'm just going to start in verse 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners. You get to pick where you're going to be. Now, sometimes you got to go someplace temporarily to do something. I mean, if you're a pizza delivery guy, you're going to deliver to a Mormon, you're going to deliver to a Christian, you might deliver to a Hindu. You know. But still, if you present the pizza with the smile of God, they might notice, and they might ask you why you're so happy. There's an opening. Who stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seats of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. The laws weren't put there as a way to punish us, as a way to hinder us. It's a way to show us how far we are from God's norm, how far we are from what God would like us to be. And through all the books where the law was practiced and the sacrifices were continued, they proved one thing: we can never be free of sin. You can't get to heaven following the law. Well, technically you could, but as humans, we can't. And in his law, he meditates day and night. That day and night again. He should be like a tree planted by the rivers that brings forth its fruit in the season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. You want your life to prosper? Make sure it's working with God. Now, you don't have to be a preacher or someone doing like I'm doing. If you're going to church and you're attending and you're being part of it and you're singing with everybody and you're going to the Bible studies, that's something you can go to that's not in the group. You can also tell your teacher, if you know the Bible well enough, that you'd like to help out with the Bible studies or learn how to help, learn how to teach. You have an interest in it. Most teachers would love to teach other teachers. So tell them what you're interested in. And they have other events. They have ulterior party. You may have a harvest festival instead of Halloween. There's all kinds of ways to help. And your tithes. Somebody asked me today, do your tithes ever end? Yes, they do. The moment you stand before Jesus, they're done. But not before. It never talks about them ending. He says, well, what about those that are retired? Where your 10% will be smaller. I know. Now, I have issues with tithing, and I have to keep a spreadsheet because I can't remember. If you're going to a church and you give your 10% there by just breaking it up and giving it every Sunday you go, it's habit. You've got it set up. You might even have an auto deposit to them or auto payment. But me, I travel around so much, I have to keep track of where I give my tithes. I give online. I do have a couple of churches that I attend occasionally when I'm in the area, but I have to keep track of it. That's the only way I can do this right. Believe me, if you don't tithe, something will come up. Now, things come up for different reasons, so don't assume anything. Every time I say something, don't assume that applies only in one case. If I need money for something and there's somebody that needs to tithe, they're going to meet up. And I have those that have helped me out a lot, and I'm very grateful for you guys helping me. And like I said, I don't mention names because I don't want you to lose credit in heaven. If you take your credit here, you won't have it in heaven, so I don't give out names. But I am very grateful to all those that have contributed. Somebody recently contributed to my PayPal account, and I'm grateful for that. I have another friend that contributes. I have a couple people that regularly contribute to other accounts. And I have a Patreon account too that I can always use help on. If you can afford $5 a month, sign up for my Patreon account and just contribute that. You can stop at any time. So just do what you can do to help. And it's all tithing. God will tell you. But I always tell people, first, you need to be in a church because we have to gather. We're told to gather together. And you need to help your local church. Most churches are struggling. We see the big ones. We see them on TV. We see them on YouTube. Take the time and look and see what kind of a house their pastor lives in. Squirrel ran right by me. See, I get distracted. Squirrel. I have a hard time accepting that. But I'm not going to condemn because I don't want to block funds coming in. I think the lottery's over $1 billion now. It's 1 in 100 billion to win or something. I don't know what it is. But you can't win if you don't play, but don't play with money you need for food. If I do buy a ticket, and I do occasionally, I'll buy one ticket. $1 or $2, that's it. It's not very often. I haven't bought one for the current round yet. I don't know if I will. I don't think God needs luck to help us out. God will bring prosperity to us without luck. Look at what happened with Job. He allowed Satan to destroy Job. And then he gave it all right back to him plus. Now, I don't know how long that took, but that's prosperity. People who win money or get money nefariously, they don't appreciate it. But people who earn it, they appreciate it. All right. I've got a move coming up tomorrow. We're overcast. We've got some possible rain tonight and tomorrow. So I'm going to try to pack what I can today and try to move in between rain showers. I've done it before. It doesn't rain continuously. If it starts in the morning, it usually ends by 10 or 11. There's a gap. There may be bands that come by. The rain coming in right now, but pray for California. The rain coming in tonight and tomorrow is from California. They've got massive flooding out there. Massive storm after storm after storm. I think they're on the 5th or 6th storm that's come in, maybe with a slight gap in between, maybe a few hours. The ground's still running off the runoff and it rains again. There's like 20, 30 feet of snow in the mountains. It will help the watershed next year. But that could also, I've lived in Reno, so I know what it's like to be in the Sierras. If it gets hot, and I've seen it get hot before winter's over and melt the snowpack. I've seen the Truckee River that runs through Reno overflow into the casinos. God's in control of things, people. Don't think you can beat him. All right. We're still watching. Barry Oz got another video up. I have to watch his videos. They're so long and have so much information. I have to watch them in segments. Fortunately, YouTube remembers where I left off, so when I go back and watch it again, I watch a little bit of it and continue on. He's real good about lining up things that have happened in the past and how it looks like things are lining up again, but you don't know. We don't know. Keep your wine filled until we meet in the clouds. God bless. Now we have the morning crew out inspecting the lake. I don't have any food for them. In general, it's not good to feed critters. Looking at our lake out here. Look at these clouds. We got rain coming in for tomorrow, maybe even tonight. So I've done my early packing. So tomorrow, if it is raining, I can find moments in between where I can finish packing. At this point, I need about 15 minutes to pack up. Even with the weather stormy, it's still pretty.